Welcome back, friends, and thank you for joining me in the kitchen today. And if you are new here, my name is Kim. I am just in the kitchen today. It has been a busy day. I'm getting ready to make bread and butter pickles. This is one of my family favorites. We just love bread and butter pickles, and I've had many requests to make more, and we are out from last year's. But speaking of busy, let me show you what I did yesterday. Today I'm out in the garden and I just finished picking some green beans, and I also have a half a bushel of pickling cucumbers. There's probably 25 to 30 pounds here. I am just getting these soaking and getting them all washed up so I can work on some canning recipes I have coming up. So as you can see, it's been a busy couple of days. That was a lot of cucumbers to get washed and cleaned. And I have just been in his kitchen today, and I'm just taking the ends off of these pickling cucumbers, and I am just slicing them into, about half-inch pieces. We don't want to go real thin because they will get soggy in the jar. So we like ours a little bit thicker, so I'm just slicing these into half-inch pieces. But like I said, the last couple of days have been very busy. That was a lot of cucumbers, and these are going to make a lot of pickles. Now, I today am going to be making a large batch of pickles, so I just figured I would bring you along to show you the process. If you want, I am going to give you the measurements for making a smaller batch, and you can just make a larger batch if you have more, like I am going to do. Today I am just going to do the recipe times 4 in order to have enough brine and pickles. So I'm going to get rid of these. I got those all chopped up. Now the original recipe calls for about 4 pounds of pickles. So like I said in the video, there was about 25 to 30 pounds of cucumbers. Now I'm not going to do those all at once because it's just too much to do all at once. I'm going to do them in batches. So I just have half of these cucumbers today. I'm working with about 12 to 15 pounds. Now I'm going to give you the original recipe that I use, and I've been using it for many years. This was a family favorite of ours. And it originally calls for 4 pounds of cucumbers. So today I'm going to times it times 4, but when I give you the recipe, it will just be for 4 pounds of cucumbers. And we also like onions in our bread and butter pickles. There's nothing better than an onion that is sweet and a little tangy. It's really good in this recipe. It is a must try. Like I said, this is a family favorite. These are 4 large onions. I just sliced them up and I kind of quartered them, so they're not real big. The pieces are a couple inches long. You can do them at whatever shape, whatever size you want. I hope you get a chance to try this recipe because it is a delicious recipe. And today I am going to be water bathing this. This is a water bath recipe. And I apologize if you hear my roosters. It is early in the morning and they are letting me know the sun is coming up. So, like I said, these are going to be water bath canned. And I just have a dozen jars in here right now. Now, if you want to do the original recipe that calls for 4 pounds, it says it will make 6 to 7 pints of pickles. I just have a dozen in here. I'm going to start with the first dozen, and then I'm going to sterilize more as I need them. Now what I've done is I have just put water in this pot, and I am just simmering it on a medium heat. You don't want to boil it. You don't have to boil it. I usually just simmer it for about 10 minutes. That just makes sure that our jars are nice and sterile. And I did rinse these jars before I put them in here. So we just make sure that the jars are nice and clean and nice and sterile. All the jars are now out of the canner. And I've got my first jar here. And what I'm just going to do, I'm going to take the pickles that are the cucumbers. They are not pickles yet. They will be shortly. I'm just going to put these in the jar. And I'm going to put some layers. Now the onions are optional. If you don't like onions, you do not have to put them in, but like I said, my family loves onions in their bread and butter pickles. Just add some really, really nice flavor. Now you want to push these down while we're packing these jars so we can get as many in there as we want. The cucumbers in the jar will shrink just a little bit as they sit in the hot liquid that we are going to add to them in just a minute. So you just want to pack them down, push them down in there, and we want to leave a 1/2 inch headspace. Now what I mean by 1/2 inch headspace is each mason jar has 3 rings. The bottom ring is a 1 inch headspace. The middle ring is 1/2 inch headspace. Let me show you right here. So this is 1 inch. The middle ring is 1/2 inch, and then the top ring is 1/4 inch. And 1/4 inch is usually for like jams and jellies. But we want to go to this middle mark right here. We want to make sure and get our pickles at that mark. And we're also, when we go to put our liquid in, we're going to put it at that mark too. So I am going to go ahead and fill up another jar. Get a handful of some pickles. Put a little onion in here. A little bit more pickles. Put just a little bit more onion in there. You can tuck those onions down in the bare holes in there. Make sure you push on those pickles. You want to pack them down as much as you can, because like I said, they will shrink after we put that hot brine on them. And pickles are really easy. If you've never canned anything before, a water bath can, pickles is a great thing to start out with. You could just pick up a little bit of pickles at the grocery store and try a couple of jars for yourself. They are very easy to do and very yummy, and you can put these on your shelves and they will last for years on your shelves. And it is nice that you know exactly what you are putting in your jars. The store-bought stuff, we don't know anymore what is in our jars. They put a lot of preservatives in there. This way we know exactly what we're putting in these jars. But like I said, this is a family favorite. Everybody loves bread and butter pickles. So I am going to make lots of jars this year. And like I had said, I had 25 to 30 pounds of cucumbers. And I'm using half of them for bread and butter. And I also have some exciting recipes that I'm going to use those other half of the cucumbers that I have left. I've got a couple of more recipes that I'm going to be doing with the rest of those. So if you want to follow along, those should be coming out hopefully in the next couple of days to show you what I do with the rest of the pickles. Or cucumbers. Not pickles yet, almost. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and get these jars filled up, and I will be right back when we get them filled up. Okay, I am almost done. I am on jar number 20. And I am going to stop at jar number 20 because my canner will only hold 20 jars. Which is alright because I have got just about all of these cucumbers. I finished off the first bowl. And I am almost finished with the second bowl. There is just a little bit left, but that is alright. I will use that for the next video I plan on doing. That one will be coming out shortly. It will be another cucumber recipe, so if you have lots of cucumbers, make sure you stay tuned. And I'll have some more recipes coming up. There we go. 20 jars. I am happy with that, but that will last a long time. Now that we have all of our jars filled, we just need to work on the brining liquid. So let's head over to the stove and I will show you how we are going to get these pickles finished up and get this brine together. I just have a large saucepan on my stove, and you will need 2 cups of water, 2 cups of sugar, and 2 cups of white vinegar. You will also need 2 tablespoons of mustard seed. Remember, mine is a larger batch. And the last thing you will need is 1 teaspoon of turmeric. And that is all we need. So I am just going to get this stirred up. We're going to get this sugar nice and combined in there. And I have my heat on about a medium high. What I need to do is we need to bring this up to a boil. Once it's come to a full boil, make sure it is at a full boil, we're just going to let it boil for 5 minutes. After the 5 minutes is up, we're going to shut the heat off and then we can get our jars filled. So I will bring you back after this is at a boil. Back here on my other burner, I have just a small saucepan and I have my water at a simmer and I have my lids and my rings in the water. And I'm going to do the same thing I did with them as I did with my jars. It's going to simmer for 10 minutes. My brine is at a full rolling boil and I let it boil for 5 minutes. I am now just going to turn the heat off and let's get these jars filled. Now that our brine is done, we can get to filling our jars. Now here I just have, this is just a jar. You can use a bowl or whatever you have. It just has some white vinegar in it. We're going to use this to wipe our lids. I also have just a paper towel that I have folded up. I'm going to use this to wipe my lids. I have my funnel. This is the magnet, so you can stick it in and pull out your jar lids out of your hot water without burning your fingers. And then I also have a wooden spoon. Now I use this to debubble. Now they do sell debubblers in the store. So all I'm going to do, I'll put my funnel on top. I'm going to stir this brine up every time I go to get a scoop. I'm going to stir it just a little bit, just because the mustard seeds will kind of gather all in one spot. So I just kind of want to stir it just a touch. I'm just going to get a ladle of brine. Isn't that pretty? These are going to be really, really yummy. I am a bread and butter lover. I like dill pickles, but I mainly just use dill pickles for making potato salad and things. Now be careful, this jar is very, very hot. Now you really got to poke down in here to get around. Pull this off. To get around the cucumbers. But if you watch, the bubbles will rise in your jar. You want to get those bubbles out. Now I pack these pretty tight, so you just kind of got to scoot yourself. It's easiest just to go around the outside edge and kind of wiggle it. Pull it forward. Get all those air bubbles out of there. I want to make sure we don't have any air bubbles in the jar, because air bubbles can cause your jars not to seal. And it can also cause mold to grow in your jars, and we do not want mold to grow. We want them to seal. So we just want to poke it down around there. I kind of hit the bottom, tap it a little bit. Just kind of want to make sure you go around. And like I talked about earlier, we need a 1/2 inch headspace. So right now it's sitting at 1 inch, and it did go down after I debubbled it. So you need to make sure after you debubble it that you bring it back up to that 1/2 inch headspace. Now we're back up where we need to be. And then I'm just going to take my paper towel. I'm going to dip it into my white vinegar, and you need to make sure you wipe this rim really well. And you're going to make sure you don't have any cracks around the outside edge of this rim. And the vinegar will get all that sticky stuff off from the brine. And whatever you do, do not rub your finger around the rim after you have done that, because you have oils on your finger, and then you're going to put oil on your finger. So don't touch the rim after you've cleaned it with vinegar. But you have oils on your finger, and you don't want that on your rim because it can give you a bad seal. So we're going to get one of our warm jar lids, put it on, and we're going to get a ring, and we're just going to turn it until it won't turn anymore. And then we're going to turn it a quarter of a turn. That's all we need to go. You don't want to over tighten it because the lids can buckle on you. And I'm just going to get my jar grabber, and over on my stove I have my water bath canner. I have it full of water. Actually, it's not full of water. It's about half full of water. And I just have it at a simmer right now. We want to make sure that the water bath canner has warm water. I just have it at a simmer right now. It is not boiling, just a simmer. We don't want it too hot, and you don't want it cold. You need to match the same temperature. This jar is warm. We're putting hot liquid into this jar, so we want to make sure we put this hot jar into some hot water. If you were to take a cold jar and put it into hot water, the jar could shatter. Vice versa, if this is hot and the water is cold in your canner, your jar could shatter. So just make sure you have your canner on your stovetop. And I just leave it at a simmer until I get all the jars in it, and then we will turn the heat up. So we're just going to do another jar. Just going to, I'm making a mess. So I have a paper towel underneath, just in case. And we're going to debubble this jar like we did the last one. So I get down all the way down to the bottom, and make sure and tap that bottom. Pull it in just a little bit. Now, I don't know if you can see, but there's bubbles rising to the top. Make sure we get all those bubbles out of that jar. I don't want to have any extra air in that jar. Get down there and tap it so you can see I'm tapping it down there. Kind of hard to get around the cucumbers, but just wiggle it. It will go down. Make sure you tap it. Get all those air bubbles out until you don't see any more. Now this one is still at a ½ inch, so I do not have to add any more. Again, I'm going to take my paper towel. I'm going to dip into my vinegar. Wipe that rim. And if you have any chips on your jars, do not use them because they will not seal. Just save them, and you can use them to put dry goods in. They are still good. You just cannot use them for canning anymore. I'm going to grab another lid and grab another ring. And the same again. I'm just going to spin it until it doesn't turn anymore, and then I'm going to turn it a quarter of an inch. Quarter of a turn. Get my jar grabber, and I'm going to put this in the canner. So I am going to finish filling these jars. And I will see you back here in a minute when I am done. And I'm using a Presto 23 quart canner today, and it will hold 10 on the bottom and 10 on the top. So I am going to add this rack, which will allow you to put a second layer on the top of the canner. And I have my first jar, 10 jars in, and now I am just going to put the next 10 in the canner. Well, there we go. All 20 jars in the water bath canner, and I have got the heat turned up to high, and I am just going to let it start to boil. And after it has come to a full rolling boil, I'm going to water bath can this for 10 minutes. So I will start the timer after this is done, and we will bring you back and let you know what these look like. Okay, my timer went off. The 10 minutes is up. After the 10 minutes was up, I turned the heat off and I let my jars sit in the canner for about 5 minutes, and now I can safely remove them. Those look delicious. Look at those pickles. Aren't they pretty? All the bread and butter pickles are now out of the canner and cooling off. I will let these sit for 24 hours, and then I will remove the rings and I will wash the jars, get them labeled, and get them up on the shelf. So I am extremely happy to have 20 jars of these beautiful pickles. Look at these pickles. Don't they look delicious? I can't wait to try them, and hopefully they are as good as last year's, and I'm sure they will be. But I hope everybody enjoyed this video today, and I just want to thank you for following along. And if you are a bread and butter pickle lover, just like we are, I hope you get a chance to try this delicious recipe. So I just want to say thank you again to everybody for following along and watching my video today. So thanks for watching, and have a great day.